Hello, and welcome to today's episode of The Ways of the World, where we focus upon a different country and culture and discover the different ways of the world through the lenses of Villanova students and faculty. These Villanovans have studied abroad and are here to share their experiences. I'm your host, Ava Petrosky. Today, we will be exploring Taiwan, and I have with me here a senior at Villanova University, Becca Wang, who studied in Taipei, Taiwan, for last summer of 2024. Welcome, Becca.
Thank you for having me here today.
Of course, thank you so much for being here. So tell me about Taiwan.
Oh my gosh, where do I even begin? I mean, I think I have to start off by describing the island. It's this tiny little island off the coast of mainland China. It's really urban in some places. It's really beautiful and natural in some others. The weather is gorgeous. I studied in Taipei, which is the capital city, and it's just like a foodie paradise. I mean, I still think about it a lot because my time there was just so unimaginably unique.
Okay, tell me about the cuisine then.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I think the first thing that Taiwan is known for to a lot of people is boba. That's the birthplace of boba, and to say that it's common there would be an understatement. The streets are lined with boba and tea shops. In fact, it's so common there that people have a term for it called 手摇饮, which literally means a drink that you kind of shake in your hand as you walk down the street. Shops have like boba tea carriers that you can buy, and I mean, my dorm building had at least like 3 boba shops next to it, so it was very common. There's also beef noodle soup, Ding Tai Fung, which is a Taiwanese chain restaurant that specializes in soup dumplings. They're really good. And stinky tofu. And a lot of people are afraid to try it, but as someone who did, I can say it's definitely better tasting than smelling. So those are just some of the foods you'd find in Taiwan.
What are inside the dumplings?
So it's a meat filling, usually like pork, and the special part about a soup dumpling is that it's filled with soup. So once you bite into it, you get to slurp the soup and eat the filling.
Yep. Okay, and I have to ask, what did the stinky tofu smell like?
Oh my god. To me, it smelled like stinky feet.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just this like general stinky, unpleasant smell. It's kind of off-putting, but it actually tastes like pretty decent, which I was really shocked by.
What does it taste like?
Just like really seasoned, good tasting tofu. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about the culture of Taiwan?
Yes, absolutely. So Taiwan is a very fascinating mix of a lot of cultures. You have the indigenous culture, the Taiwanese Aboriginal people. There's a lot of tribes that are still very present in Taiwan. Then you have obviously the huge Chinese influence. People in Taiwan speak Mandarin. So as a Mandarin speaker, I could go to Taiwan and get by just using the Mandarin I knew in everyday life. And there's also Japanese influence because Taiwan at some point was a Japanese colony. So it's a really interesting blend of all of those cultures, and you see it in a lot of aspects ranging from the food. For example, there's curry places all down the street, like everywhere you walk. And yeah, a lot of temples everywhere. And we even got to experience an indigenous dance class when I was studying with my host university. So it is absolutely fascinating.
That is cool. What was the dance class like?
Oh, so we learned a dance from the Taiwan tribe called Babu, which means 8-step. So the dancer brought in traditional costumes for us to try on. One of my classmates was actually very lucky to try on the costume, and he got to be king for the day. And we just learned how to dance. We all held hands and danced around in a circle.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were able to kind of get by because you spoke Mandarin and made you speak Mandarin there. Could you talk to me a little bit more about navigating through any potential language barriers?
Yeah, so Taiwanese people speak Mandarin. It's written a little differently. In mainland China and in the US, they teach simplified script. In Taiwan, it's traditional script, so the characters look a little different. That took some getting used to, but the oral Mandarin is basically all the same. So I am a heritage speaker. My parents are from China. I grew up speaking Chinese, so it was a little challenging at first because some of the words were a little different. Think of it like British English versus American English. But I got by pretty smoothly. There was really no real challenge in navigating the country.
Yeah. Did you do any other side travel outside of Taipei?
Yes, so I wasn't able to leave the island. However, I did travel to a lot of places. Our program took us to Sun Moon Lake, which is a beautiful lake in the very center of Taiwan. It's absolutely gorgeous. The water is like this vibrant green blue. I also went to this place just an hour outside of Taipei called Jiufen. And Jiufen is a old mining village in the mountainsides that they kind of revitalized. It's got a lot of tea shops, souvenir shops, hotels, and it's actually said to be the place that inspired Spirited Away, and a lot of beaches.
Yeah. So what did you do in your free time?
In my free time, not gonna lie, I did a lot of homework because my program was language intensive, so that meant we were practicing our Chinese day in, day out. But in my free time, I mostly stayed within Taipei. At night, me and my friends would go to a night market. We would pick up some snacks to eat, and karaoke is also very popular in Taiwan. So our evenings were usually spent doing a combination of night markets, karaoke, just wandering the streets because the nightlife scene is also really rich.
Awesome. Did you, when you were kind of walking around the streets, was there ever a moment where you came across something that you weren't expecting to find, but then you did and it was awesome?
Oh yeah. So I think I had that moment one of my first ever nights in Taiwan, and that was garbage collection night. So, most people in Taipei live in high rises. It's very urban, very packed. And how garbage trucks let people know they're coming is they will play classical music. So one of my first nights in Taiwan, I was just wandering around my dorm when I heard, classical music. And I was so shocked to see that it was coming from a garbage truck. And once people start hearing the music, they kind of start filing out with their trash bags and tossing them in the back of the truck. So that was very interesting to see.
That's cool. That's really cool. Was it any particular composer that you know of?
Some re-release, some very common classical tunes. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about why you chose to study abroad in Taiwan? Did it relate to your field of study at all? Tell me about that.
Yep. So I am a Chinese major, and I also have sociology as a double major. But one of the unique requirements of the Chinese major is that we have to study abroad at some point. And I was looking at places like South Korea and Singapore, but what drew me to Taiwan was that, first of all, I had never been before, and that they spoke Mandarin as their dominant language. So, and going into this program, which was mostly focused on learning language, I knew that it was a great opportunity for me to continue growing as a Mandarin speaker, and also to get that study abroad fulfillment, done and out of the way. So, yeah, and I honestly do not have anything bad to say about it.
Amazing. Have you ever been to any other countries around Taiwan?
So I've been to China before. A lot of my family is from there. It's been years since I visited, but I have a lot of great memories from visiting family members. And actually, on the way to Taiwan, I had a layover in Seoul, so I got to experience South Korea for the first time.
How long was that layover?
Overnight.
Oh, awesome. So
Yep.
you got to see it.
I did not leave the airport, but the airport was so big that I got to experience a lot of fascinating things just within the confines of that building.
What'd you see there?
A lot of souvenir shops. I got to try black sesame boba for the first time. It's really good. And just walk around, and I have a friend that's really into K-pop, so I got to buy her some souvenirs.
Aw, that's fun. So, okay, going back, I know that boba was really big in Taiwan. What was your all-time favorite flavor?
Ooh, okay, that's a good question. First of all, tapioca pearls, which are the little black pearls, come in different sizes. I really liked the mini ones where you could just suck a bunch up your straw and like, to be honest, I felt like the mini size made it taste better. Outside of just normal boba though, I really liked milk tea with pudding. So they replaced the boba, the pearls with pudding, and I always ordered mine 半糖少冰, which means half sugar and less ice. That way you can really taste the tea flavor, and you also get a little more per drink.
You had a layover in Seoul, South Korea. Can you tell me a little bit more about your flight pattern? How long was that flight?
Gosh. Very long. So I am from Delaware, so the airport I flew out of was DC in Dulles. And while there are some direct flights to Taiwan from certain cities in the US, I did not take a direct flight. Instead, I went from DC Dulles to Seoul, South Korea, and that flight was 14 hours nonstop. I did an overnight layover, and then the next morning I caught a 3-hour flight from Seoul to Taipei. And on the way back, I did a 12-hour flight from Taipei to Seattle, and a cross-country flight from Seattle to Atlanta, overnight layover, and then from Atlanta back to DC.
Wow.
Yep. So it was quite a lot of travel.
You must have been exhausted.
Yeah.
How was it? What's the time difference between
it's
here and
actually 12 hours perfectly.
Oh,
So it would be, say, 11 a.m. here would be 11 p.m. there.
Yeah.
So it was literally like perfectly like night and day.
So did you find that hard to assimilate to?
Yeah, the jet lag it will hit you hard for the first couple days. I think the first couple days when I was in Taiwan, I was waking up at 5 a.m. Taipei time and trying or wanting to go to bed at 4 p.m. So thank God though, the program gave us the first couple days off to kind of get adjusted to that time.
Yeah. What did you do in your first couple days there to get used to it?
I think just try local food because a lot of Americans when they go to Taiwan, they don't really know what to try because the local food is just so abundant and so diverse. I started out by taste testing Taiwanese KFC and McDonald's, and I found it really good. And yeah, and other than that, just wandering around the neighborhood, checking out local shops, and just getting to know the people on my study abroad program too.
Yeah. Was it a Villanova study abroad program?
No, so it was a partner program. It was called the Taiwan Intensive Summer Language Program. It's run through American councils, and I was actually the only one from Villanova on that program.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
So do you still keep in contact with everyone there?
Yeah. I'm really good friends with a couple of girls, and yeah. I can say study abroad friends are lifetime friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. What are some must-see landmarks in the city of Taipei that you feel a visitor has to see?
That's a good question. So in Taipei alone, I feel like the first must-see is Taipei 101. It used to be the tallest building in the world. It's this giant shopping mall and business center. And I believe it still currently has the fastest elevator in the world because it takes you all the way from the bottom to the top. And while you do have to pay to go on that elevator, it's not a lot of money, and the view from the top is incredible. The level where it drops you off at the very top is all glass, so you can just look out and see just these like lush green mountains and skyscrapers, and it's absolutely fantastic. And other than that, there's really cool attractions like the Malcolm Gondola, which goes over to Taipei Zoo. It's this really long gondola that's stretched into the mountains and it drops you off at a tea village. And it's really cool to just spend the whole day walking around there and take the gondola down when you're done. There's also the Palace Museum, which hosts a lot of like artifacts. I think they have this one jade cabbage that's like a literal piece of jade carved into the shape of a cabbage. So overall though, Taipei is a really accessible city. It's more touristy than other parts of Taiwan, but there's also a lot of interesting things to do.
So how fast was this elevator?
Very fast.
Really?
It got you up in seconds. Yep.
So when you came down, was it a little bit, your stomach drops or?
Yes. So my host family told me to keep popping my ears. So you literally have to just keep on popping your ears as you're going up and down or else the pressure will get to you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you lived with the host family.
Yes,
Tell me more about your living arrangements.
Yeah, the host family was actually just a weekend thing because we primarily stayed in the dorms. However, they had an arrangement where families that are connected to the university could opt to host us for a weekend. My host family was wonderful. I had 3 little host siblings, and my host family was very curious about American culture as well. So we got to talk about how we were raised, some foods that we eat, and it was really valuable to kind of have that experience living with them.
And you were able to just speak Mandarin?
Yep.
Did they speak English at all? Or?
Yes, so a lot of people in Taiwan will speak English, however, it's not their primary language. And luckily, since I was a heritage speaker, I was able to just keep the conversation running day in, day out in full Mandarin.
When you were in the dorm, did you have a roommate?
Yes, so Taiwanese dorms, at least the building where I was, they are 4 bunk beds to a room. So typically there would be 4 people in there. However, since it was a study abroad program, it was just 2 people to a room. We each got our own bunk bed and desk right underneath it. It was very interesting to experience dorm life because of how different it is from the US. The space is more tightly packed. The rooms aren't as big. However, that means there's a huge communal aspect to it. And that's something I really enjoyed in the end.
So you said that Taipei is probably a more touristy city than other cities throughout Taiwan. Where were the tourists predominantly from?
It's a mix. So obviously there's going to be a lot of Americans. Americans are everywhere. There's also a lot of tourists from Southeast Asian countries. For example, I saw a lot of people from the Philippines, from Indonesia. So it's really a mix. However, as someone who is not a local, and one could consider me a tourist as well, I do find that Taiwanese people are really eager to talk to foreigners. I got so many questions about America, ranging from the food I eat to what my day-to-day looks like, and it was really, honestly, nice to share those aspects of myself.
What was the name of the university that you studied?
Yeah, so the university where I studied was Tamkang University. In the Chinese pronunciation, it's Danjiang Daxue. It's a city located in New Taipei, so just about 30 minutes, an hour north of Taipei proper. And it's in a district called Danshui, which is this really cool harbor district with a wharf.
Wow.
Yep.
How big is Taipei? Were you able to walk, or was there public transportation?
Taipei is massive. I mean, just the university where I was, even though it's considered Taipei, it was an hour by train from the center of Taipei. So Taipei itself is absolutely massive. There's districts I explored, there's places I went, but even in the end, I wasn't able to experience all of Taipei because it's just that big.
Yeah. If you could describe Taipei or Taiwan in general in 3 words, what words would you choose and why?
I think, first of all, fascinating, because it's just really cool to walk around the city and see things that you've never seen before. And every day looks different when you're in Taiwan, at least as an exchange student. And the second word I would use is probably filling. I say that both in terms of emotionally, you get to experience so many new things, and also in terms of the food. I mean, just by my university alone, there were so many restaurants that me and my friends could try a new one every single meal if we wanted to.
Yeah.
And the last word, I think it would be memorable, because I had so many fun moments with my friends, so many silly photographs that I look back on, and I wish I could be back there.
I know. Yeah. What was something that you experienced that really surprised you, that you weren't expecting in terms of maybe the culture of Taipei?
I think one of those moments for me was when me and my friends got on a bus and we got yelled at by the bus driver. So, Americans, we're all these excited young adults exploring a new city for the first time together. So we were chatty. We were talking on the bus at a normal volume of what you'd expect on American public transportation. However, we got like glared at and yelled at by the bus driver because staying quiet and respectful on public transport is really important in Taiwanese culture. If you go on the MRT, which is the like subway line, or if you go on public transport, people will be almost silent. People mostly will have their earpods in. They might be whispering to each other, but nothing really goes beyond a whisper. So I think that aspect of culture was really insightful and also took some adjusting to, but in the end, I found it really valuable.
Can you walk me through a typical day in your life?
Yeah, so I think a typical weekday for me started off at 6:30 in the morning. So I liked to be an early riser for some reason. So I would normally get up, get dressed for the day, go downstairs to the 7-Eleven or Family Mart. So 7-Elevens and Family Marts are everywhere in Taiwan, and they're full service convenience stores that sell everything from snacks to like just items you need to full meals. And I would normally pick up breakfast. So this was some combination of a sandwich and maybe a coffee or like a fruit jelly drink. I would take it back to my room. I would eat my breakfast, continue getting ready, and usually I would look at whatever we were going over in class that day. So we had daily quizzes on characters, so I'd normally take a look at the characters, see if I could recognize them all, and if I was all set, I would go to class with my friends. And morning classes were 3 hours, and after that 3 hours, we would have an hour off for lunch. Me and my friends, like there were a lot of restaurants lining the university, so we would normally pick a new one every single day. And obviously there were some favorites that we kept on coming back to, but we quite literally got to try a new type of food every single meal. And after lunch, we would head back for another hour of class. And when class let out, we had either language consultations, which were like one-on-ones with our teachers, or language partner hours. So we got paired with like local university students to just kind of learn more about Taiwanese culture. So it was either a combination of doing that or sitting down in a cafe, studying, doing homework, looking at characters for tomorrow. And then after that was all over, we got dinner again at a new restaurant every single day because there were so many. And then normally we just ended the night by either hanging out in the dorms, going to a night market, or just hanging out. Yeah.
If you could redo any aspect of your abroad experience, what would you do differently and why?
I'm gonna be honest, there's not a lot that I would have done differently. However, the one thing I think I would have tried to do is travel to cities that were further away from Taipei. Because as a student that was kind of on a tight schedule with all that studying, I really only went to cities and like attractions that were kind of close to Taipei that you could get to within a day. However, that meant I did miss out on some of the cities on the southern end of Taiwan, like Tainan and like Kaohsiung, which is a city that's all the way down there that a lot of people say you have to travel to. And if I did anything differently, I think it would be budgeting time to go to those places.
Yeah.
Yep.
What would you hope to see there?
Honestly, just see the sights, do what every tourist does there, because every city in Taiwan is slightly different. In the south, in the east, you have beaches, and I honestly really wish I got to see these.
Yeah. What was the weather from June to August over there?
My gosh. So Taiwan is a subtropical country, so it was extremely hot and humid. I mean, I have curly hair naturally. I usually straighten it, but the minute I got to Taiwan, it just poofed right back up. And I did not straighten my hair for the rest of the summer. It was that humid.
Yeah.
I think the humidity was something that I just never experienced before in my life. It was also very hot. We would normally walk to class at like 7 in the morning. And even by that time, we were already working up a sweat. Sweat would be dripping down our faces by the time we got to class.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of insects. So one of the pieces of advice that our program gave to us was buy bug spray. Buy so much of it. And we went through cans and cans of it.
Oh, wow.
And also, we landed in Taiwan during monsoon season. So Whereas kids in the US have like snow days and fog delays, people in Taiwan have tsunami days. We actually got 2 days off in July because a tsunami was coming through Taipei. It wasn't as severe as the program made it out to be. Obviously, they were a little nervous about American kids experiencing a tsunami for the first time, but it was kind of fun. We were all just cooped up in our dorms, watching the weather outside, and it was really cool, honestly.
Okay, looking at your whole summer abroad, what is your favorite memory?
That's really hard. I'd say one of my favorite memories was the day me and my friends went to Jiufen, which is that like old mining village up in the mountains. It was kind of difficult getting there because we went from bus to train to another bus, and the public transport was kind of messy. But I think one of my favorite moments was when we went to a tea house and then we went outside to take pictures. And I have that picture actually. It's one that I really like. It's just me standing on the railing looking at the village behind me. And it was truly beautiful. You could see the mountains, you could see the sea, you could see all the tea houses kind of dotting the mountainside. And it's something that I'll never forget.
Aw, that's beautiful. If you could write a book about your abroad experience, what would you title it?
That is an interesting question. I think I would title that book A Summer of Self-Growth. Because while it's a little unconventional, I think what this trip did for me was it allowed me to really grow more independent as a person. And before study abroad, I was really scared to go abroad and live by myself for the first time ever for that long, because in my mind, I was leaving behind all of my friends, all of my family, my entire support network, and the country that, I know very, very well. And what that summer taught me, though, is that it's fun to be a stranger. It's fun to step off a plane into a city that you've never been to before and know that you will make connections that last a lifetime. It's really fun to walk down the street and not know anyone because you don't know what you'll bump into, you don't know what you'll end up doing, and it's really fun to live spontaneously. So I think this trip taught me a lot about independence and self-discovery, and also just growing more confident in myself. And that's, why I would title my book that.
That's a great title. Now, my final question for you, Becca, is if you could give maybe any of our reviewers who would love to travel to Taipei or Taiwan, what advice would you give them?
The advice I would give is watch out for traffic. Traffic in Taiwan is crazy because, as my language partner told me, people don't really obey traffic rules there. People ride mopeds more than cars, and streets are twisty and very curvy, and just watch out because there will be mopeds coming from everywhere. They kind of just take up all the space, and it's something you definitely have to get used to as a foreigner. Also, bring a lot of bug spray, get ready to sweat, and just know that the weather is going to be nothing like you've ever experienced before. It will be so hot and sticky, and it takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is good advice. Thank you. Becca, thank you so much for coming today and for sharing with us your experiences about Taipei and Taiwan. It sounded incredible.
It was. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of The Ways of the World. I'm your host, Ava Petrosky. I'll see you next time.